on the bonding of spirits. Some spirits reside in more subtle matter, others in more dense matter. Some reside in composite bodies, others in more simple bodies. Some in observable bodies, others in unobservable bodies. As a result, the operations of the soul are sometimes easier, sometimes more difficult, sometimes weaker, sometimes well adapted, sometimes impossible. Some spirits operate within one genus, others act more efficaciously in another genus. Thus, humans possess certain operations and actions and desires not found in demons, and vice versa. It is easy for demons to penetrate through bodies and to initiate thoughts in us. The reason for the latter is that they convey certain impressions directly to our internal senses, just as we ourselves sometimes seem to think of something suggested by the internal senses. This knowledge seems to occur according to the following comparison and analogy. If one wishes to generate a thought in something standing at a distance, one must shout so that the thought is produced in their internal sense through their hearing it. But if the person is closer, a shout is not needed, only a quieter voice. And if the person is immediately nearby, a whisper in the ear suffices. But demons have no need of ears or voices or whispers because they penetrate into the internal sense directly, as was said. Thus, they send not only dreams and voices and visions to be heard and seen, but also certain thoughts, which are hardly noticed by some. They communicate truth sometimes through enigmas, and sometimes through sense impressions. Sometimes they may even deceive, but not all things are granted to everyone, although they always happen in a definite sequence and order. Not all spirits or demons have the same level of existence, power, and knowledge. Indeed, we know that there are many more species of them than there are of sensible things. Thus, some of them are brute animals and cause injury without any reason. Although these are far inferior to humans in knowledge, they still can do as much harm as dangerous animals or of poisons. Mark called these spirits deaf and dumb, i.e., they are without reason, since they recognize no commands, and they do not hear or perceive any threats or prayers. As a result, it has been declared that it is impossible to banish them, although it has also been said that they can be controlled and conquered by fasting or abstinence, and by prayer or lofty meditation, and by the power of the senses. This latter is a medical issue, for spirits of this crass type, like food and pleasure, are located in our dense humors and earthly melancholies, which a doctor controls either by thinning them out through fasting or by expelling them with a proper dose of laxative. There is another type of demon which is fearful, suspicious. These hear and understand voices, but do not distinguish the possible from the impossible, or the appropriate from the inappropriate. They are like humans who are dreaming and disturbed by fantasies. This type of demon is usually expelled by threats of death, prison, fire, and other such things. There are other, wiser demons which reside in pure air, which is a simple substance. They are affected by no cult, no religious practice, and no prayers. Rather, they freely distort all these things and play with humans by counterfeiting illusions of fear, anger, religion, and such things. They understand languages and the sciences. but never make any firm assertions. Also, so these hateful demons introduce confusion and doubt into the human mind and senses. There are also ethereal spirits which are pure and luminous. All agree that they are hostile to no one and are completely good and friendly to virtuous men. But the airy spirits are friendly to some, and hostile and hateful to others. And terrestrial spirits are hostile, or at least are not friendly, since they are less rational and more fearful. In accordance with the saying, they hate what they fear, they deliberately cause injury. But the spirits of fire, which are more properly called heroes and gods, are said to be the ministers of God. The Kabbalists call them Phesim, Seraphim, and the Cherubim. And the prophet of the Psalm said, He made the winds to be his angels, and the flames of his fire his ministers. Hence, Basil and Origen rightly argue that the angels are not completely incorporeal, but are spiritual substances. That is, they are animals with very subtle bodies, which divine revelation has said are fire and flames of fire. In every group of spirits there are sovereigns and rulers, ministers, leaders, governors, and ranks, by which the wiser and more powerful dominate and direct the more ignorant and more uncultured. These roles do not endure forever, but they are also not as briefly constituted as they are among humans, for in many ways the lives of spirits are not comparable to ours, since the soul's union with a simple body is much more easily maintained than it is with like bodies of ours, which are composed of contraries. Their bodies very easily ward off change. Thus, air and water undergo less change than do composite bodies. Furthermore, they are easily restored. For example, when air is divided, it is reunited very easily, and portions of water reunite after they have been separated. Thus, Virgil did not use a ridiculous poetic figure of speech when he said that Aeneas frightened the shades when he cut through their abode with his drawn sword. These various spirits occupy the bodies of humans, animals, stones, and minerals. There is no body which is completely devoid of spirit and intelligence. Furthermore, no spirit possesses a permanent location for itself. Rather, spirits fluctuate from one matter to another, and matter fluctuates from one spirit to another, and from one nature or composition to another. This is what alteration, mutation, passion, and even corruption are, namely the separation of certain parts from others, and their recombination with still others. For death is nothing more than such a disintegration. No spirit and no body ever perishes. Rather, there is only continual change of combinations in actualizations. Parallel to the various actualizations arise from the various composition of things. There are various loves and hates. As we said, everything desires to remain in its present state of existence and does not comprehend or even think about any other new state of being. Therefore, there is, in general, a bonding of reciprocal love of a soul for its own body, and of that body in its own way for its soul. Thus, the diversity of natures and drives gives rise to a variety of bonds which affect both spirits and bodies. We will discuss these bonds immediately after we have first defined the analogy between spirits and composites.